In the middle of a cornfield, a young girl runs desperately, as if she were running away from something or someone. Suddenly, she hears the sound of a chainsaw in the distance and runs as fast as she can towards the exit. Minutes later, she arrives at the farm and meets the owner of the property, who is surprised to see the young woman in such a state. Soon after, a group of mysterious individuals, made up of 3 masked farmers, a clown and a girl, appear on the scene. Armed with knives and chainsaws, the group chases the young woman who, while trying to escape, ends up bumping into the owner of the farm. The clown goes to check on the woman, but she seems to have been seriously injured by the fall, while the young woman continues to flee. However, her path is blocked by a guy in a pickup truck, who seems to know the woman lying on the ground. Unfortunately for the young woman, she is attacked by the girl, who hits her in the middle of the head with a machete. 15 years after the attack, high school football player Brandon is talking on his cell phone to his best friend Rustin. In the middle of the conversation, he drops a bottle on the floor and goes to pick it up, but suddenly a hand appears from under the bed and grabs him. That hand belongs to his girlfriend, Wendy, who sneaks into the room to scare Brandon. Despite this, the two of them don't miss the opportunity to have a romantic moment right there, but the insane man has forgotten to lock the door and his mother ends up entering unannounced. The situation only gets worse when Rustin and his sister, Melanie, also invade the room, putting an end to the moment. They call the couple to go out together tonight, but Wendy is tired of doing the same old shows. She suggests trying something more risky and talks about a farm in the area known as Fear Farm. The property has become a tourist attraction thanks to its immense cornfield, shaped like a labyrinth, and the challenge for visitors is to get in and find their way out before time runs out. However, Rustin is against the idea, because according to a local legend, this farm was used in an evil cult. It is said that the practitioners of this cult eliminated women by removing pieces of their skin while they were still alive. To prove his point, he shows Wendy the video recorded by one of the victims on his cell phone. However, the video was just an internet hoax and, at the insistence of his friends, he agrees to go along to see the farm. The 4 of them then drive there, without suspecting that this is the same place where the young woman was eliminated 15 years ago. Not only that, but the labyrinth's pursuers are the sons of the owner of the property, called Herschel, and the family continues to live on the farm. At that moment, Herschel tells his children that the time has come to follow the legacy of his wife, the same woman who was eliminated that fateful night. Then they all say a prayer and promise to sacrifice more victims in her honor. Meanwhile, Rustin and his friends arrive at the farm, until they are surprised by a clown holding a knife. Fortunately, it was just one of the farm's employees, hired to scare visitors and attract more customers. After this scare, the group splits up, with Rustin and Brandon going to the restroom, while Melanie and Wendy go to buy tickets. The two pass another clown called Frosty, who they believe is just another employee, but who is actually one of Herschel's children. Soon afterwards, Wendy sees a scarecrow doll decorating the place and is surprised at how realistic it looks. She then goes to show the doll to Melanie, but in a matter of seconds, the scarecrow has mysteriously disappeared. At the same time, Brandon manages to get into one of the toilets, but he was in such a hurry that he didn't see that the booth was occupied. As a result, he is startled by another masked employee and narrowly misses going under his pants. With their tickets purchased, the group heads to the labyrinth and, before entering, they have to leave their cell phones behind and get their hands stamped for safety. However, when it's Melanie's turn, the reader triggers a warning signal, which is sent to the owner of the farm. When the young woman asks what happened, the presenter tells her that she has been drawn to take part in the VIP maze. Shortly afterwards, Herschel appears and says that the VIP mode is even more challenging, but if Melanie and her friends get out of the maze within 2 hours, they will win a prize of $10,000. Without a second thought, the group accepts the offer and Herschel takes everyone through the maze in his truck. On the way, they meet a group of masked guys, trapped by a fence in the cornfield, and Herschel tells them that this is a little bonus before they go to the VIP maze. The aim is to shoot them using the paint guns attached to the truck, and the group doesn't hesitate to shoot paint at all of them. After that, they finally reach the VIP area, which has 5 different paths to the exit. Some are longer than others, so they have to choose wisely, otherwise they won't win the prize. On hearing this, Melanie suggests that everyone takes a different route, so they have a better chance of winning. Brandon supports the idea, but Wendy doesn't want to go alone and Dustin is also against it, because of the legend of the girl sacrificed in the labyrinth. Herschel, however, assures them that it's all just legends to attract the public and that all the paths are safe. However, he warns them that if the group isn't willing to face the challenge, they could return to the maze and lose the $10,000. Melanie doesn't intend to give up so easily and soon convinces everyone to cross the cornfield and leave with their pockets full of money. Herschel is pleased with this decision and warns them that, In addition to the labyrinth, they will encounter masked officials to make the race more exciting. Finally, he gives one last tip, telling the group to avoid the middle path, as he made it longer on purpose. With everything explained, the four of them each head for the side entrances to the cornfield, and then Herschel tells his team that the game has begun. Along the way, Wendy is the first to meet one of the employees, who tries to scare her with a puppet ghost, but it doesn't work. Also having an unexpected encounter is Rustin, who sees a guy dressed as an alien, but doesn't take much notice and continues on his way. Suddenly, he sees a huge guy wearing a scary mask in the distance, and at first he just ignores him. However, when he looks again, the masked man appears right in front of him. This time, Rustin is quite startled and congratulates the extra on his costume, as well as giving him tips on his work as an actor. However, the guy just stares in silence, which irritates the young man, and he continues through the cornfield. The four friends continue to walk through the endless maze, until Melanie finds a bridge and tries to call out for Rustin. However, no one hears her call, and even at the top of the bridge, she can't see a way out of the cornfield. After hours of walking, the group is tired and the challenge only gets harder as night falls. Brandon is already starting to give up on the prize, until he comes across a woman called Gemma. She appears wearing more youthful clothes and tries to win him over, inviting him to have a romantic moment in the middle of the cornfield. But he refuses, as he is already engaged to Wendy and just wants to know where the exit to the labyrinth is. Gemma doesn't like this at all and warns him that he'd better run, because she needs to exercise and will give him a chance to escape. Brandon doesn't understand what she means, but Gemma explains by pulling out a machete and hitting him in the leg with the blade. The deep cut leaves Brandon seriously injured, and he is forced to limp away while Gemma counts down. As soon as she stops counting, she takes off after him, sharp weapon in hand. At the same time, Melanie searches for her friends, until she comes across a masked man carrying a chainsaw. Believing him to be just another farm worker, she congratulates him on his characterization, especially his mask, tied with wires. She then goes to check if the wires are real, but as soon as she gets close, the guy knocks her to the ground with a headbutt. He then tries to attack her with the saw, but Melanie manages to dodge the attack and pulls out her pocket knife, hidden in her boot. The young woman tries to strike back, but the masked man disarms her and prepares to break her in half. At the last second, Melanie manages to dodge with a roll, picks up the knife and slams the man to the ground, as well as kicking him in the wound to knock him out. Melanie seizes the chance to escape, but the masked man recovers from the blow and chases after her. The young woman hides in the middle of the plantation and, without knowing where his target is, the masked man starts sawing through the cornfield to clear the way. At the same moment, Brandon is trying to get away from Gemma, who finally finds him and pulls a syringe containing a sleeping pill out of her sock. The young man tries to escape, but ends up being cornered by the masked man with the chainsaw. Brandon then tries to return, only to be attacked by Gemma, who injects him with the sleeping pill, knocking him unconscious. After this, the masked man warns his sister that he has lost sight of Melanie, so Gemma orders him to take Brandon to the lab, while she goes after the girl. Without suspecting what has happened to his friend, Dustin continues to walk through the maze, until he is surprised by a guy dressed as a ghost. The young man isn't scared and asks what time it is, because it's getting late and he believes that the 2-hour deadline has already passed. However, the man remains silent and hides in the middle of the plantation, which only makes Dustin even more angry. The path through the labyrinth continues, until the young man sees a scarecrow in the cornfield and, to pass the tedious time, he starts throwing stones at it. After that, he continues walking, but the scarecrow suddenly moves and begins to follow him slowly. Rustin is already tired of the labyrinth and, because of this, doesn't notice when the scarecrow approaches, holding a machete, and removes his arm with one blow. Seeing what has just happened, Rustin starts to feel sick and tries to run away, but ends up stumbling on the ground and starts to lose a lot of blood. He fears that the creature is going to give him the final blow, but instead, the guy waves in the direction of a pickup truck, which is coming towards him. Seconds later, Melanie crosses the cornfield, finds her brother seriously injured and runs to help him. Without the scarecrow noticing, she tries to lift Rustin up to escape, but her brother says he won't survive and, to calm her down, he starts making jokes about the situation. Then the young man falls to the ground, apparently lifeless, but again, it was all just a joke and he was showing off his acting skills to his sister. After all this banter, the man agrees to flee the farm, but the scarecrow sees the two of them together and sets out to attack Melanie. The young woman tries to hit him with the blade, but the guy tackles her to the ground and starts squeezing her neck. Rustin then runs towards the truck and asks for help, but soon discovers that the driver is another of Herschel's sons, who speeds off and runs him over. Melanie despairs at seeing her brother lose his life and, overcome with rage, she manages to break free from the guy and hits him over the head with her penknife. After that, she again flees through the cornfield, while the masked men help his brother who has been wounded. Nearby, Gemma is in the farm's laboratory, with Brandon restrained by handcuffs on a stretcher. As soon as the young man wakes up, she tells him that she is putting a special ointment on his leg so that she can remove pieces of his skin more easily. Brandon collapses and begs for mercy, but the villain doesn't care and begins the procedure. The pain is so intense that Brandon ends up fainting and Gemma continues carrying out the process and storing the pieces of skin in a container. However, she is interrupted by her brothers, who bring in the body of the scarecrow, which Melanie has disposed of. Gemma is furious and asks where the girl is, but they don't know where she's been hiding. So Gemma decides to go after the young girl and sends her brothers to capture the last member of the group, Wendy. Meanwhile, the young girl walks unhurriedly through the maze until she meets Frosty the Clown again at a candy stand. She asks him if he knows how much time is left before the challenge ends, and Frosty tells her that the group only has 40 minutes to get out of the maze. Wendy then rushes off to win the prize, but before she goes, the clown, along with his assistant Kevin, asks her to try one of his treats. But Wendy doesn't accept, because she doesn't want to waste any more time and needs to meet her friends again soon. Frosty the Clown lets her go, but as soon as she continues walking, he appears behind her, holding a cane, and uses it to grab her neck and shake her. The clown has fun pushing Wendy from side to side in the cornfield, while the young woman is breathless. However, she repels the attack with a kick to a very painful area and takes the opportunity to pick up the tiller and slam it right into the man's face. After this confrontation, Wendy tries to flee through the cornfield, but Frosty and his assistant start chasing her with the truck. The young woman manages to dodge the vehicle and runs the other way, when she runs into her friend, Melanie. To Wendy's misfortune, the clown appears in the back of the truck and shoots a harpoon through the girl's leg. The stalker then speeds up the vehicle and uses the rope attached to the harpoon to pull the girl the whole way, until they reach the laboratory. Melanie then follows the vehicle to save her friend and sneaks into a storeroom. Inside, the young woman tries to slip through the corridors unnoticed, but behind her appears the creature with the mask tied by wires. Without hesitation, he lifts the girl and begins to squeeze her, until Melanie loses consciousness and faints. Hours later, she wakes up in a wheelchair and finds Wendy still alive, but strapped to a stretcher. To make matters worse, she has also had parts of her skin removed and has no idea where Brandon is. Wendy despairs and apologizes for having insisted that her friends go to the farm, but Melanie calms her down, saying that she'll find a way for them to get out of there. The young woman then tries to free herself from the restraints on her wrists, until Herschel appears, along with his children. He says that, after 15 years of waiting, his family has finally found the victim they needed for their macabre experiment, who is none other than Melanie. However, as she has eliminated one of Herschel's children by hitting him in the head with a knife, he intends to punish her for it. However, as he needs Melanie alive, Herschel decides to eliminate Wendy in front of her friend and, even though the young woman pleads for mercy, the farmer hits her repeatedly with the blade. Seeing yet another friend being eliminated in such a gruesome way, Melanie becomes enraged and asks what they want and why they have captured her. Gemma explains that Melanie is going to help complete her late mother's work, which consisted of removing the victim's skins to collect a rare type of genetic material. According to her research, this genetic material, when extracted, can be used to create a powerful facial rejuvenation gel. However, there are even more special people who can produce this gene in greater quantities. To identify them, the family used to stamp visitors with a reader capable of detecting the presence of these genes. When they did this with Melanie, they realized that she had enough of them to make mass production of this gel. In the case of people like her, it is necessary to keep her alive, because when the guinea pig loses its life, its genes become incompatible with those of other people. Finally, Gemma explains that this experiment was the dream of her mother, who wanted to find the formula for eternal youth. Hearing all this macabre explanation, Melanie discreetly unties the ropes from her hands, jumps out of her chair and grabs a knife from the table. Herschel is surprised by the girl's courage, but is undeterred and tells her that she has nowhere to run. As well as going through them, the young woman has to cross the immense labyrinth, with no idea where the exit is. Seeing that there is no escape, Melanie then points the knife towards her neck and threatens to end her life, so that none of them can complete their research. Herschel despairs and asks the girl to calm down, because if she loses her life, all his efforts will have been in vain. Melanie has nothing left to lose and, using the knife, she hits herself and falls to the ground, apparently already lifeless. A few days later, the town's residents start putting up posters about the disappearance of Melanie and her friends. Among them, Brandon's mother hands out posters with photos of her son and asks everyone if they have any idea where the young man might be. Unfortunately, no one knows where Brandon is and his mother is losing hope. Finally, she goes to a fair and gives the poster to the owner of a cosmetics stall, saying that she is looking for her son. The woman calls her father and shows him a photo of the young man, but he says he doesn't know him. However, it is revealed that the owners of the stall are Herschel and Gemma, who are selling their gel to the townspeople. The subject then asks if she has called the authorities, but Brandon's mother replies that the police have refused to help her. As the young man was already over 18, he couldn't be considered a runaway, nor is there any evidence that he was forcibly taken away or disposed of. Herschel feigns sadness at his disappearance and says that if he hears any details, he'll get in touch. The young mother thanks them for their help and is about to leave, but Gemma offers her a free sample of her facial rejuvenation gel. The woman accepts and tries it right then and there, saying that the gel smells of eucalyptus, the same as she smelled in her son's room. Frighteningly, Gemma and her father made the product using Brandon's skin, which probably suffered the same bizarre fate as his friends. Back at the farm, Melanie mysteriously wakes up on a stretcher, still alive and with her neck regenerated. Seeing that she has awoken, Frosty the Clown calls for Gemma, who is happy to realize that her experiment has worked. She reveals that she saved the young woman by using skins to reconstruct her neck, but the injury has damaged her vocal cords and she can no longer speak. As a result, Gemma can continue her experiments with the gel, using Melanie's skin as a long-term backup. As human skin regenerates in 2 weeks, that's how long the genetic material will be collected to make the gel. And to ensure that the young woman doesn't try to escape, she will be kept under eternal sedation while her skin is removed until the end of her life. Melanie despairs and tries to resist, but Gemma injects her with the sedative and the young woman falls asleep, condemned to a hellish fate. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.